to talk to us more about the continuing issues that will be faced by school districts and school adjacent organizations in the local area as we approach the fall is Nicky Soares from Kelly Services and Kelly Education joining us now on the Oakland County Megacast. Nicky, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks, Larry. Good to be here.
So how are you? How's your team at Kelly doing?
We're doing great. I would tell you we're really super busy, if you can imagine. So Kelly Education, we're an outsourcing placement workforce solutions company, and we work across the country in 41 states. And just to kind of give you an idea, we place substitute teachers primarily across the country. Last year, around late 2019, we placed about 4 million assignments. So as we're gearing up, and particularly as we're sort of in the middle of the pandemic and everything that we hear today around the reopening of schools, you can imagine that our recruiting efforts are 24/7 right now.
So there have been recent reports, Nicky, that there's going to be that there may be a shortage of some substitute teachers come the fall. Do you believe that that is going to be the case, and what may be the cause of some of these shortages that may be expected in the fall in our schools?
Yeah, I think that's a really important question. So, it's been interesting. I mean, just to kind of frame it up, prior to the pandemic, we were experiencing just a huge amount of demand in terms of our services. So in our country today, we have a major teacher shortage that was occurring even prior to that, and about 20% of our daily assignments were catering to full-time teacher vacancies that public school districts themselves couldn't fill. So, fast forward today, I mean, when we think about all of our teachers who might be at a certain age or maybe underlying conditions, or even just with our schools anticipating attrition rates, maybe even due to infection, or those teachers that are not able to come back in person to schools because maybe they themselves or family members with underlying conditions, the expectation is we are going to be starting schools with less teachers than what we had prior to the pandemic. So, in my opinion, that's a mathematical certainty that we're not going to have enough teachers to open. And so the demand of substitute teachers, we're seeing it is increasing. Even with our current clients, they're asking for us to sometimes double, maybe even triple our talent pool, simply because they're expecting that attrition. So they want to make sure that in terms of a solution that we bring to bear, that we're able to really help them in terms of anticipating those openings.
So what plans are in place, or what ideas are being discussed now between you and the school districts that Kelly Services and Kelly Education serves to resolve that issue? Because if there's going to be a substitute teacher shortage in general, that's not going to affect just one school district. That's going to affect a lot of school districts in the local area.
I will tell you, it's going to affect every single school building in the country, not in Michigan, absolutely everywhere. And so right now, when you think about an outsourced solution like ours, think of us as sort of a co-employer. So, we are right there in partnership, planning on all the logistics, all of the protocols, understanding what's going to be required. And so, it does require us to be a little bit more creative, particularly with space planning, also understanding the credentials of individuals, particularly for those that might need to serve even from a virtual learning perspective in person, the expectation of where we're going to have sort of long-term assignments, what we can expect on daily absences. Interesting enough, prior to the pandemic, about 8 to 10% of teachers not coming to the classroom every day, whether it was due to a last minute illness, a scheduled professional development day, a maternity leave, whatever it was, that was equivalent for a student's K through grade 12 career of a full-time teacher missing for 1 year. And so when we think about what we need to do in terms of understanding how we're going to go back to school, we're seeing very hybrid sort of solutions. We've got many schools that probably, I think Microsoft just recently did a survey where they're expecting 60% of our schools across the country will sort of have a hybrid of virtual learning, but also in-person learning. We're also seeing some school districts that are going to go and open wide open 5 days a week, or they might have a combination of the virtual and the hybrid, but maybe they might do sort of staggered scheduling, have longer days for students, but bring them back in batches. So I can also share that many of our schools and districts are anticipating that perhaps some of their logistics are going to have to change. And then, of course, we all know the discussion around masks, around sanitation, hand washing. All of that's going to occur. So it's not only training for our students in terms of how to handle those kinds of environments, but also the adults that are going to be there servicing, whether it's academic teaching or whether they're, in the cafeteria, doing sort of clerical things in the office, depending on what that is. So bottom line is, I think that what we will see, we will have sort of a constant kind of evolution of pivoting in terms of where infection might be, or in terms of what a specific school building needs could be.
Nikki Soares with us. She is the president of Kelly Education and the senior vice president of Kelly Services with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. In terms of getting more talent into your pool and into the substitute teacher pool in the state of Michigan and nationally, there are a lot of different credentials that have to be met by these substitute teachers. In some cases, they are very stringent because you want to have qualified people and people that are safe to be in these classrooms. Even if it's just in the meantime, is there any discussion or any chance that some of these credentials may be loosened a little bit to get more people into that pool so you can fill these gaps?
Yeah. Oh, I think to me, that's a really important question. And I think, we're, because of the teacher shortage that we had already experienced, we were sort of seeing the evolution of a workforce model. And I think that if we continue of having very stringent credentials on what we exist now for a teacher, I think that mathematically we're going to see that supply of professionals decline. And there are a couple of reasons. We have less teachers entering the teaching profession. Back in 2005, 10% of incoming freshmen were pursuing an education degree. Fast forward today, you've got about 4.5% of students entering into their underclassmen experience pursuing education. And so to me, this is not necessarily a negative. I do think it's an opportunity to perhaps expand credentials, or maybe start that conversation of what we need to do a little bit differently. And so when I think about sort of maybe some of the perhaps a silver lining with folks that have been displaced or find themselves unemployed. So as an example, everybody knows we have a shortage around STEM teachers, and we might have a lot of employees, talent that might have been displaced from STEM careers or within their current jobs. And maybe they might make a great teacher to come into the classroom and maybe take assignments to teach biology or Algebra 1 or something like that. So 4-year degreed individuals, that have, basic academic credentials to be a teacher. Another trend that we're starting to see is what we call alternative credentialing. And so we do have organizations within the country that have been certified by departments of education, where they might take in folks that already have a 4-year degree, but if they take an online credentialing course for about 18 to 24 months, then they become credentialed as teachers. So not necessarily going through the traditional sort of career path through college in terms of a school of education to get a teaching credential, but that's sort of another opportunity to kind of take a look at. And so I do think as we sort of progress and as the shortage kind of increases, I do think we're going to be having these conversations more. So we need to be innovative. We need to think out of the box in terms of, bringing really qualified people into the classroom.
On top of just substitute teaching, there's going to be other resources and other services and occupations within these school districts that are going to need to be filled or backfilled as people leave for safety reasons or for other reasons, and as the challenges of schooling children modifies as we go further on in this pandemic. What are some of those other services, occupations, or functions that are going to need some extra help on top of substitute teaching that your service and others are working on right now?
Yeah, another really good question. So I think in every single service line, if you will, within a school building, we're going to see demands. So we're already experiencing like food and nutrition workers, folks that would be working in the cafeteria. Many of our students are on free lunches, so those services never stopped, even during the pandemic in many of our states. So we want to make sure that we have enough individuals there that can cater and prepare meals, and also to obviously to deliver the meals on a daily basis. So also IT support. So as we see many of our schools giving the option of virtual learning, it's going to be critical that we have folks that are there serviced and decked towards infrastructure, network, bandwidth, also able to help with software and other types of online kinds of curriculum support. That's also a really big critical need. Also sanitation. So when we think about maintenance, janitorial services, that's not going to stop. And if anything, and I think we all know that the opportunities where we're going to have to really clean our buildings more deeply, more often. We need more folks that are able to do that, with various shifts 24 hours a day. So we're going to see that. Also, special education. Our educational aides are paraprofessionals who I like to think, they're some of our most unsung heroes. School nursing, that's in big demand as well. And then what's interesting too now, really is the request around temperature takers, folks that maybe can do contact tracing. So we have a lot of that going on right now, and just in terms of anticipating and preparing for the need of what schools might have to do in addition to delivering instruction on a daily basis.
Nicky Soares with us from Cali Education and Cali Services. Before we let you go, anything else you'd like to touch on today?
You know what? I think the thing that I think is really profound. So when we talked about our nurses and our doctors and our paramedics, sort of being that front line, the essential workers, our grocery store delivery folks, all of that, I believe substitute teachers are sort of the next line of essential workers. And in fact, anybody that works in a school building in a school community will be the next line of essential workers. And so we need to really appreciate and value those folks, because I think that they're going to be critical to our nation's success of successfully reopening our economy. So certainly there's a correlation to the reopening of schools, to the reopening of the economy. But the one thing that's going to, I think, prevail in terms of we have to make sure that we're prepared, we're disciplined, and we give the right amount of support to all those folks that are going to be working with our children. So it's important that we get that word out there. So
Well,
thank you very much.
well, thank you for being with us, Nicky. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Nicky Soares with us on the Oakland County MegaCast.